No, I did not cut all of my hair off. I've just got it pulled back. It's finally long enough that I can pull it back to an extent. I do have to put a little bit of product in it to keep it back, but a little bit of a change. That's what I was feeling like today. Don't know why. Thought I'd try it out. Keep the hair at bay for a moment. It also accentuates the beard, since, big hair, big beard, it kind of takes away. One will take away from the other. So, anyways, now that the vanity section is done. So, spirituality and dreams. This is something that I've been wanting to discuss, but it didn't feel as though it was the right time. This has been something that's been on my mind for quite a while. So the people that know me closest know that I used to be the biggest nerd when it came to sleep studies. Sleeping and dreams, that area has always fascinated me. But there's not a lot of information that is available because it's not something that many people talk about, aside from like, oh, I had this dream where I was driving down the road in my marshmallow truck and my wheels started that's cool, but that's it's interesting, but that's not where I'm interested. So I used to be a giant nerd about this. Even in high school, there was a paper that I wrote in my psychology class. It was psychology and sociology all rolled into one. So you know that everyone was just fun to be around. A lot of know-it-alls and a lot of I don't want to be here's. So we had to do a final project, and since I was very much into dreams, this is what I was focusing on. I was going to write a paper on lucid dreaming and how it relates to mental health, as well as a few other things. I wish I could find the paper. That would be really awesome. But it's long gone. Long gone. So writing this paper, there were a lot of references from a forum, which I'm not entirely sure if it's still there, but it was called LD for All. LD for the number 4 all. It was the biggest forum for anyone interested in lucid dreaming, whether you were just starting out trying to get information, or an oneironaut who was skilled in the art of lucid dreaming, or in that realm. So I based a lot of my information on that and had a lot of my own personal research that I was doing. And for what it is, a high school student doing research, I mean, la-ti-da. But either way, these were things that I personally recorded on a daily basis, every night, like there was effort that was put into this. And I remember failing that particular paper. And one of the reasons was that I would say things like our research and my research. And she was like, well, obviously you plagiarized. And not only did you plagiarize this, but you didn't even bother changing where they referenced my and our research. She's like, you're not doing any kind of research. Excuse me? She didn't believe me. I get it. High school student giving you, citing sources otherwise in the paper, but then saying that I'm doing research. I get it. If I was a teacher, I'd be very hesitant too. However, when the student brings you information and shows you their research, update the grade. Don't continue to tell them that they're a liar, because, that's terrible. So, all that being said, dreams have been a big part of my life. Every night, I would have a lucid dream. Every time I would go to sleep. There was not a moment there was not a night that would go by that I wasn't entering into a conscious dream. This also means that there wasn't a moment of sleep, even when I would take a nap, that I wasn't paying a lot of attention to the hypnagogic state. And this was all the time. This wasn't just like, 3 times out of 10 or something. No, if I was taking a nap, I was going through a process every time to enter this state. And around the time that, and this is only speculation, again, I still haven't got confirmation on this at all, but around the time that my testosterone levels started to tank was around the time when my sleep started suffering. I started developing insomnia, and I noticed that my dreams were no longer vivid. I was no longer entering the hypnagogic state, which really sucks, because this was my relief. This was my Zen place. I don't know why that rubber band just popped. Okay. So this was my Zen state. Every night I was going here and I was unwinding, and it stopped. So you can imagine how, let's see, this went on for, so for 5 years, 5 times 365, you do the math, I'm driving. That's a lot of consecutive days, that I was in this state at least every night. And just like that, it vanished. So there's a part of me that really was very confusing, because I didn't know. I knew what I did to gain access to this space, but I couldn't figure out what I did to have it sort of ripped away seemingly overnight. Oddly enough, I feel like that's where a bit of depression had come from, because like some people get relief by all sorts of things, whatever your vice is, you know. Maybe it's your nightly you go home and you watch a bit of a series on Netflix, or you go home and you have, you know, some ice cream and a brownie, or, you know, you relax with some nice music. Like, my relief was going deep into the hypnagogic state and experiencing everything that it is. My experience with it was from a Western point of view. And there were books that I read. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, which was very much discussing the importance of sleep. But I only looked at it through a scientific lens. Even the books by Stephen LaBerge, even the books by Stephen LaBerge, they were from a scientific, well, not entirely, but my brain was only interested in the scientific aspect of it, because you have to remember, where I'm from, if you are showing interest in something else that is outside of the Christian belief system, then it is dubbed pretty much evil. Even if this is not a religious or spiritual practice, something as simple as focusing on your dreams, it was seen as bad and evil and not holy. So my way of viewing this was from a scientific lens, and only that. By the way, this was not, you know, from my parents. My mom, I mean, I didn't get that sort of upbringing was from just the outside. That was from the community, from other people, you know. My family wasn't that judgmental. But either way, me coming at this from a scientific point of view, I feel as though, not to say that it cheapened the practice, because that's what this is, that's what this was. This was a meditative practice that I was doing nightly, and I didn't quite realize that. I knew of meditation. I knew what it was. I knew that the traditional types of meditation, like what I know now is Zazen, didn't quite work for me. The contemplative states of just, you know, reflecting, and that didn't get me to the same point that this particular practice put me in. I've never been into these states from meditation, from traditional Zazen and these others, but through what I know now is considered dream yoga. There's a lot more. I know there is a proper name for this particular practice. I'm revisiting all of it. I don't know, because these names, it makes me really feel bad for saying this, and almost like kind of hurts a little bit. But I had really stripped out the spiritual aspect of this practice. And I feel like that's why this practice no longer was working for me, because, not to say that I was abusing it, but I wasn't getting the full, I didn't understand its importance. The only way to put it. I knew it was important, but I'd stripped it of its true meaning. A lot of things that we do in life, but when we extract what we think we want, what would be the best way to say this? My best analogy for this, and this might not make sense to a lot of people, this thought is more or less when we take plant medicine, for instance. There are many things that are beneficial in the world of plant medicine. And sometimes we can extract what we want from that particular plant. We find out that this chemical works well and we pull it out. The problem is that, yeah, that chemical or that compound is going to work, but it may not be as effective because it relies on other compounds within the plant to really be effective. Look at CBD. CBD by itself is very good at a host of things. Great for inflammation, great for anxiety. There's a host of things that it's great for. But when you combine it with the other parts of the plant, when you have CBD by itself and then you have a full spectrum CBD, you're having other parts of the plant that are there that can work with CBD and give it its true effects. I hope that makes sense. That's a little long-winded, but I'll edit that down. This is kind of the same way that I feel with dream yoga. There needs to be a respect for the whole and not just the parts that we find interesting. that cheapens all the things that we're experiencing. This was my aha moment when I posted a video of my Q-Vivic experience, and I really went into the fact that Q-Vivic lengthens the hypnagogic state. So you are almost forced to spend some time in this state, which for some people is not pleasant. But I also think that it could be a wonderful spiritual tool, because some people have trouble tapping into that space. I don't know. But when I was taking it, one night I was trying to get to sleep, and I was thrown into the hypnagogic state. No warning, just everything that I know to be what I used to see as familiar was all something very different. I was on shaky ground. This was not the space that I once knew. It was familiar, but that familiarity was just barely. I really didn't recognize it, and it made me feel very uneasy. It was like walking into a childhood home that has been abandoned for years. Everything seems familiar, but it's changed. It might look completely the same, but the energy of it's just different. I realized that this is still the same house. This is still the same place. It's not the area that's changed, it's me. And that's when I realized that I really had to do a lot of work, because I had become very much complacent with being asleep. I found a great video that explained all of this in way more detail than what I could ever do. But to quote directly from the video, dream yoga is a measure of the path. It will also show you your desire to remain ignorant, in that you may not want to be awake. I know there's a more eloquent way of saying that, but I've spent a lot of time off the spiritual path. And that was a big indicator to me that it's time to get back on that path. While I'm there, I feel as though I'm still on the path, but I know that I'm only doing the bare minimum. I'm not putting in the work that I should. I'm not putting in the work that I used to. Even at the age of like 16, I was putting in more work on my spiritual path than what I am now. And I feel like that's a problem. If anything, I should be spending more time, because I have more time that I could be developing to this. I know this is a really long video because I know where I'm at now in relation to my drive. I can't even see the time. It's probably been like 20 minutes. Yeah, it's been 22 minutes. So I'm going to edit this down. I just really wanted to discuss this because this was something that was kind of, it's been weighing heavy on me this past week. I thought it was important.